Hmm.
recently I saw your LinkedIn post that you are officially launching your own business, and you're working with a lot of these gaming projects and providing dev tools. So I'd love to kind of learn a little bit more about that. But first, I want to get your take on like the evolution of gaming as a whole, like from the Atari days to where we are now to where you see it going.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back even further than that, right? I mean, we've been playing games since I think we knew how to pick up sticks and rocks. I mean, there's always the concept of us getting together and playing. Has been around for thousands of years, and I think even before the Ataris and all of that, there was a real sense of community, right? I mean, sports, but it was games. It was in your backyard. It was in your street. And then obviously with the advent of the digital technologies of Ataris, I was a big Nintendo guy, the original Nintendo. And getting into that, I mean, obviously it opened up new horizons, new worlds, and new ways to interact with individuals. And then more advances into multiplayer and online changes the game even further, which, if you look at it now with Web3, I mean, in the last, 50 years of games, it's incredible. And then you've got, metaverse talk and, AR experiences, VR, et cetera. So I think that the technology will always continue to evolve, that which it should, right? And then in a positive way. But I think that the core of wanting to be a part of a community, ultimately having fun, and getting back to those days when you were young will always be there. It just comes in different forms. So that's kind of one of the driving forces of why we created what we did, was that, the community, yes, but there's always going to be something that I think drives us to want to be entertained and have value. And then we just put an ownership layer on top of it.
Yeah, and you mentioned community, and I was briefly looking over your site. And you've got like the tooling side, but then it's also very community focused. And I was trying to figure out a way to connect the dots there in terms of what you're working on.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the technology is one side, and I think there's lots of really great applications on the studio and the gaming side to which we provide. But ultimately, it's, I think, connecting those that play different games across the world into one ecosystem, right? Without us having to go in and change a person's their favorite game, or changing what they already like, right? And that has to go with accessibility and make sure there's not technical challenge, all those different types of things. But taking that concept of the games that you like to play or that you want to play, and then the rewarding mechanism, for sure, it's always there because that's Web3, that's crypto, that's blockchain. But I think on top of that, it's the ability to decide where that league moves forward. So we're a community, a player owned gaming league, meaning our community is going to have that say in terms of what games come on the platform, what games get developed, where we go as an organization, right? Because we're community owned. It's not just like me or some other people sitting in a castle somewhere being like, oh, we do this and we do that. It's very much where do the players want to see it going? Which one should be onboarded? And then ultimately rewarding those people for their time and their skills. So yes, if you win like tournaments and wagering, those types of things can occur, but it's also, every little detail down to, being when you watch an ad, or if you want to, share your data, those types of things, making sure that you're monetizing that in all different respects. So, I mean, listen, half the world plays games, right? It plays our course, not even digitally, but there's a lot of us out there that are playing it in physical form. So being able to tie those together and reward you for the things you're already doing and having fun is what we mean, right? Without having to say, hey, we have to go into a game and change the way it's played, or change the way you play with your assets, or change the way a game is functioning. It's kind of, it's a leap, right? We take the best of the world, we find the best games out there, best type of catalogs, and then kind of get them to form together in an easy and I would say friendly way.
Building a really good game is super hard, and I can kind of feel the pain a little bit because, like, through Network Spotlight that I'm building, which is a traditional, regular community, there's really not much of incentive besides the value
Mhm.
of each other. So I'm curious to know, like, when you're looking at games, like, what are you seeing in terms of the incentive? Do you feel like you need to have like really strong like Web3 components in order to provide that incentive for the player? Or do you feel like if you focus on the actual gameplay, the user experience, the incentive will naturally happen itself?
Yeah, that's an easy one for me to answer, right? I mean, it's totally the gameplay, and it's got to be a quality game. I think, markets aside, and there's ups and downs and all those different types of things. But if you come into a game just because of a reward, or you get paid to play it, or I'm going to make $3 or $5 or 10, well, once the money goes away, then what's your motivation to stay, right? So there's got to be something intrinsic. There's got to be something with the gameplay that continues to bring you back there, right? Whether it's the storytelling, right, the lore, whether it's the mechanics, whether it's the community, whether it's just you like that game. I don't think in my illustrious history, I don't want to date myself, that I've ever get into a game because you're paying me to do it, right? I did it because I wanted to have fun. I did it because my friend was doing it. I did it because I like football, or I like soccer, or I like whatever, Risk, whatever it is. Just the games that you play because they're fun and because it's entertaining. And then, it would have been nice to get something out of that if there was that available to you. But it was that quality of the game and the quality of the entertainment. So I think when we lose sight of that, as I think Web3, as blockchain games, whatever, and if you're just trying to always extract out, hurry up and play our game and we'll give you this, and then hopefully it goes up in value. But no, I mean, that's not sustainable. I think we saw that. And I hope that doesn't continue, because it's not a great... Games say that, it's about building community, but I think it's just an overused term, right? If you're actually not doing it for the quality, for the players, to create something that's a little bit higher than yourself, right? Then it's not going to be sustainable. So that was a long answer to yes. It's got to be the game, right? It's got to be the game. It's got to be the vision. It's got to be the team that's behind it.
And I feel like as an industry, we kind of learn that now in this quote unquote bear market. Mm-hmm. We look back and say, wait a minute, we got this wrong last time. Let's actually focus on the user experience, the gameplay, all those things that you just mentioned. My concern is that when traditional game developers are looking at us, they're just kind of laughing, say, okay, you have all of these bells and whistles and blockchain technology, this and that, but really you totally are missing on the actual gameplay, and I have no interest of being in the industry.
Right.
Are you seeing that from your perspective, like when you're talking to people in gaming?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's still a divide, right? I mean, I can throw out statistics and data points and all these different types of things, but you still have a bit of a gap, right, between traditional Web 2, however you want to say it, game studios, developers, even sometimes the players themselves, right, and Web 3. And, that blockchain technology. And for a lot of the reasons you just mentioned, right, and that we had talked about in terms of, kind of the rug pulls, the scams, that it's not quality, it's just trying to extract value. And that did happen, right, for sure. And so it kind of tainted the industry overall. I think over the last year, there's been a recalibration. We're refocusing on the fundamentals, and that's coming along. So I think as long as your passion and your vision for the project comes from the right place, right? Quality, fun, taking care of the players, making sure that you're receiving feedback and taking that in. Obviously, that will work out better. There's still a divide, right, between the more classic studios and what we have going on in the Web3. But I think that's natural, right? With anything that shifts in technology or people's interest, there's a lag there. But it's also an opportunity, right? I mean, there's an opportunity to just be creative and find different solutions and different ways of entertaining, which obviously we're all excited about.
So you're trying to make a difference in the gaming space. How are your tools positioned to better shape Web3 gaming going into the bull market? Yeah.
Well, we think we're in a pretty unique position because we're really focused on the user acquisition, the user retention side. Right. So all of these games that are in development or have been over the last few years, we're ready for them. Right. And we're ready to actually help them grow and help them expand. And I mean, we talk to multiple studios every single week. Right. And everyone has the same problems and the same challenges. So our tooling is specifically focused on how do we engage with players? How do we reward them? And then how do we retain them into the games? Right. The drop off's massive on Web3 and Web 2 overall. Right. I mean, you get 94% of players leave within the first 30 days, right? And that's just an industry norm. And it's, obviously it happens in Web3 as well. So how do we put together the infrastructure, the data, and the tooling to make sure that people stick around, that actually want to play the games, and that they're rewarded to do so in a number of different ways, right? Rewards doesn't just mean, oh, I'm going to pay you a bunch of money to keep playing. It also means, how do you have your input? What access do you have? How does your gaming abilities in one game translate to another one, right? So it's more about having one universal profile across multiple games that are fun. What can we do to keep them around, but also for studios to look at other players that are out there, right? Players that maybe you would never be exposed to. Maybe you're playing an anime game in Japan, right? And then you're trying to, you have a horse racing game in the US, right? But they would maybe never be exposed to one another. But Web3 and the blockchain has those capabilities for us to see, what can we do to better associate and affiliate with one another through our modeling. So, we've been working over the last almost year now, right, through this really fun market, but we've just been putting our heads down and getting it done, and we'll continue to do so. And we've just been constantly talking to studios, to players, like, what is needed, what do you want to do, and that's why we've just been really calculated in terms of when we go live, right? Like there was no rush, right? We wanted to make sure it was done right, that we really were solving issues that already existed in the space, so that when the market comes up, because everything goes up and everything goes down, right? So when it comes up, because it will, I think we're uniquely positioned to have a pretty sizable impact, not just on studios, but in the entire Web3 gaming space.
Yeah, to your point, talking to different VCs, it seems like the retention is the biggest challenge for a lot of games, and not so much the acquisition, because as you mentioned, the acquisition can come with specific incentives, but keeping the players, the users, that's the difficult part, and I think that's the part that relies heavily on the user experience, the gameplay. So outside of the technical piece, or maybe perhaps it is all technical, like how do we? This is probably not a very short answer, because that's the biggest problem that we have right now. But how do we tackle that biggest problem?
Yeah, I mean, it is a huge problem, right? And I think game companies, since they've started, have had that as a problem, right? So it's definitely not something that's like, oh, it's an overnight solution, and I wouldn't consider myself like the sharpest crayon in the box, right? I just that's who I am, but we're working hard. And what we have, though, is a lot of insight and a lot of working hard with studios to try to come up with solutions. So, what we're really focused on is, it's kind of the rising tide lifts all boats, right? If we can team together and we can, come at this collectively, right? Because we're organized as a DAO. If we can collectively share resources and our insights into this, we have a better chance of solving this than if we continue to work alone or try to beat each other up. So obviously we're still protective-ish of the catalog, right? We're not like we're taking in 10 of the same type of game. And we want to make sure that we're, providing value to every studio that we work with and every game that we have. But we look at the player side, it's, what can we do to keep them engaged through the entire ecosystem, through all the catalog of games, right? Have them come back and play one, then have them come back to another, and have them have different opportunities to be exposed to it, but then also have the insight and the say, right? The model almost came from, where the idea was classically with games, but if you take like the Green Bay Packers, if you're familiar with football, right? That is supposedly a community-owned football team. I mean, it's not, right? I have stock. I'm a shareholder of the Packers, but it's nothing. It's a piece of paper. So what could we do if you actually controlled or you owned the Green Bay Packers? What would you do as an organization? What would we do as fans? What would we do as players? It's the same type of concept. What would we do if we could do that with a league? What could we do if we do that with teams, with our games, right? Where would we go with it? And I just think that what we haven't done is put a lot of the power and a lot of that access into the players' hands. We've been saying, play this because it's awesome. We said, do this because you're going to make money. Do this because it's this IP. But what we haven't done is said, hey, you're going to be able to own this. You're going to be able to have a say through the entire process of this catalog. And that's our mission, right? If we have that, our theory is that we're going to have better loyalty and better retention, because it's not us. It's not me, Peter, making the money and everything. It's you who's playing it, and you have a direct say into it. So that's our running goal. And we're going to go through all markets to make that be a reality, because we think it's going to work.
So interesting point that you made. You mentioned that you're a DAO. So there's a huge emphasis on decentralization here. So I'm curious to understand where that value, like where did that enter into gaming for you throughout like your journey as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I heard about a DAO, I don't know how long ago it was, probably a few years. Um, I just love the concept, right? It's a collective, it's an association, right? That's what it is. That's how I've always viewed it. It's kind of the idea of being shareholders, but actually with real power. So I just love this as a business model. I think again, we've tried so many different times of different business models of corporations and LLCs and nonprofits, all these different types of things. And DAO just opened up a completely different world where it's actually, power to the people, right? You actually are giving that to the community. And because of it's on the chain and smart contract, it's not like they can make a decision, you can, come back on it, right? It's executed, it's deliverable, what the community says goes. And again, what more could you ask for from a community-led project? You can preach all you want about, oh, we listen to our community, or oh, we listen to players, but DAOs just take it to an actual executable level, right? You can't shake it. You can't like say it and then not actually do it. So I mean, I've just always loved the idea of it. And then from a gaming perspective, it's, yeah, I mean, the players, we are in the most beautiful community you can think of, right? I think of all Web3, but also just any other community, right? It's tight knit. It's something you collaborate with, and it doesn't matter. What I've always loved about gaming, and especially how it relates to DAO, it's never mattered who you are, where you live, what you look like, how much money you have. Like, it's the ultimate equalizer, gaming and what that does. So it's a perfect application for DAOs. You put everybody, you pull them together, people's different backgrounds, experiences, and you let them have a say in things. I think it's extremely powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. The community is powerful, and just gaming as a whole is so important to the space. I mean, I think I read somewhere that 70% of people that get exposed to crypto, gaming is kind of like their gateway. So it's something that bonds a lot of us. And then from there, they go down the rabbit hole of DeFi or these
Yeah.
NFTs. So absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Yeah. So what's next for WPL?
What's next? So many things. Yeah. So, I mean, right now, a short term for us is we'll be releasing our initial catalog probably the next few weeks. And it'll be on our website, and we'll start promoting all the studios and the games that we're working with. And that'll be really exciting, right? Because we've been working on a lot over the last, 6 months specifically with our studios. So to be able to kind of release that fully is going to be a fun time for us. And then from there, it's continuing to just expand out our capabilities on the backside for our studios, right? To help them with their retention and their engagement and their acquisition. And from there, we've got a lot of really cool things that we're working on that'll be coming up in the next couple of quarters for our players, right? So I talk about the leaderboards, I talk about the standings, I talk about different tournaments, reward structures. The DAO governance starts to come in, decision making on our next catalog. So we have an initial group of about 15 studios that are coming in that we'll be releasing. And then the next group that we have coming in, our community starts to decide, right? They vote on, they engage with them. So they're going to start to plan that out for us. So we'll have all of that being able to be launched and then continue just to build from there. I think almost all of them, I'll probably double check, but pretty much at least maybe 90% of all the games we work with also have some component outside of the blockchain that we're trying to help them with. And I think, again, that's a really unique factor. So what I mean by that is, there may be real life versions of the game you can play and then have a reward structure on top of. Maybe there's a trading card game. Maybe there's an NFT project that also correlates with you hold something in different power in the game, but totally separate. And you go and do that in AR or VR outside your house, and then it ties into these games. So every single game we work with, it's what can we do outside of the game that also engages, right? Because we also feel like people want to be around other people. We're still social, right? We're still social beings. Gaming is a beautiful space for us to be able to be entertained. And obviously everyone does it probably in their homes or around, but it's still social. And so what can we also do to get people out to connect with one another's and then tie that back into the digital game? So that's not coming right now, but I tease it and say it because it's something that we're really passionate about and we'll be working on over the next year is how can we take each of these games and provide different opportunities to engage with the games and also to be rewarded outside of just your phone or your computer. So it's, it's been really fun to work on, right? I mean, we're trying to kind of come out with it in phases. With here's the initial games, here's the initial ways to interact with it. But I mean, we have a 3-5 year plan on this. This is not a, oh, we're going to launch our token and get out. Like, we don't have a token right now. It's very much, how can we get quality games? How can we build on top of this and create something that's pretty special?
So if I'm a player and I want to get involved with the DAO, or I'm a game studio and I need some help, how can I get in contact?
Just yell at me, and I think I just respond. It's like smoke signals and pigeons. Send them to my house, I'll get a hold of you. Worldplayleague.com, so the website. There's an email sign up. We have way Web3 of us, right? That's all we have right now. We have our Twitter. There's submission forms on our website to get a hold of us on the studio side. And then in the next few weeks, we'll be adding more from wallet capturing, those types of things, as we add those capabilities on that side. So, I mean, the website, our Twitter, LinkedIn, all those things are going to have more information coming out. But if you're a studio, feel free to get a hold of us. Always reach out to us, but we're probably going to pause the initial studios we work with in the next couple weeks. And then we'll have a new cohort coming in probably next year. So it'll be a wait list after, the next couple of weeks. So if you want to get in, this would probably be the time to do it. And then on the player side, again, signups on the website, our socials, that'll be pretty active going into the fall.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Peter. I'll make sure to include the links in the description. I appreciate your time and your perspective on gaming as a whole, and taking us through the entire history of it, and just giving us a little insight into what you're working on.
Yeah, thank you, Mikhail. Appreciate your time. Always good seeing you.
Likewise.